Well, hello to Winnie, Sterling, James, Roman, and Cleo. It is this month our happy, H-A-P-P-Y, happy birthday, B-I-R-T-H-D-A-Y. It's our happy birthday month for James and Roman, who are, A-R-E, having a birthday 4 days apart. It is not Grandma's birthday. No, it is not Baxter's birthday. Baxter is our D-O-G dog. And we are going to read the last story in our book today, which was W.A.S., a very funny book. She, I and You love, L-O-V-E, books. Dad, D-A-D, and A-N-D, Mom, M-O-M. Dad and Mom were, W-E-R-E, with me, M-E, on Christmas Eve. So were you. Yes, this is going to be a funny story, and he is going to be one of the words in our story. He is it, I-T. All right, so we're going to look for some of those words in the story today. I don't know if you remember, we've been reading Wannabe Farms. And this is what the farms look like at the beginning of the story. There's a barn. There was a shearing shed for the sheep. And there's a barn where the horses stay. There's a lake. And over there is the farmer's house. Okay, now this last group of crazy people on this farm are the horses. So, this story is the day the horses decided they could make the farm more successful. Did you guess a total disaster? You're right. Wannabe Farms, where the animals' dream, used to be busy but was now losing steam. As you probably know, a new highway came through, bringing traffic and progress, and that new billboard, too. It's hard to deny the strength of these forces, and they were felt most by the Wannabe horses. The horses at one point were the star of the show. They made Wannabe Farms a place people would go. So, look at that. The horses used to put on shows, and people would come and they'd watch the horses, and the horses would prance around and jump over bales of hay, put on a big show. Powerful, pretty stallions and mares, ponies to ride at the Wannabe Farms. There was jumping and polo, racing and shows, trotting and dressage, and horse rodeos. Crowds came to the farm. It was the place to be. Business was booming. It was something to see. Then slowly but surely the crowds went away. No one came to ride. No one came to play. The reason was simple. Out of sight, out of mind. The people moved on and left the horses behind. They lived by the old road that nobody used. The highway was now where all the cars cruised. From that fast-moving freeway, horses could be seen, 2 pastures away with a lake in between. and their old horse barn had lost all its charm. It could no longer be seen by the advertising, advertising the farm. The horses were bitter. They used to be kings. They weren't quite prepared for the changes bring. Their days were so dull, they felt trapped by their fences. They were lonely and bored. Change had consequences. They watched as the others made new dreams come true, and they began to get jealous. They didn't know what to do. How dare they have fun? How dare they evolve? The farm was in crisis. There was a problem to solve. This farm was for horses and the crowds that they bring, not for cows building cars and sheep learning to sing. Oh, the horses were angry. Enough was enough. It was time to do something. It was time to get tough. But how to achieve it? How to get what they needed? They started kicking and bucking, and they stampeded. They started neighing and snorting. They were pawing the ground. It was a loud horse conference heard for miles around. Then as quick as it started, the horse conference stopped. Up to the barn, all the horses clopped. They stared at the sign, so big and inviting. It was clearly important with its painting and writing. 2 stories tall, a beacon to all, Wannabe farms, and a number to call. The horses all neighed. They knew just what to do. They now had a dream. They would make it come true. These horses believed the barn had to be moved, and who better to do it than their powerfully hooved? It must be pushed to the highway where it couldn't be missed. It must block that new billboard. Oh, they couldn't resist. That all of the cars, all of the trucks and buses would see the big barn and wonder what all the fuss is. Thousands of people would see the sign every day. They'd return to the farm to ride and play. Now this plan of the horses seemed downright insane. To move a big barn, you'd need a freight train. But then horses are horses. They're solid and strong. They can run 2-minute miles with someone riding along. But barns aren't just heavy. This one was immense. They'd have to push it downhill and lift it over a fence. The lake was a problem they chose to ignore. They'd figure that out when they got to the shore. And this barn was old. It was 102. Was moving it now a smart thing to do? No, it wasn't. It wasn't smart, not at all. This rotted old barn was destined to fall. Now, the author says, how do I know this? Let me tell you a little bit about the barn. 102 years ago, a group of neighbors all helped a farmer named Obadiah construct his horse stable. They weren't master carpenters by any stretch of the imagination. In fact, most had never built anything before in their lives. So they tried to follow the plan as best they could, and for the most part did a pretty good job. Truth be told, the barn should have fallen down long ago. But through all of these years, the farm avoided disaster after disaster. Tornadoes narrowly missed it. Heavy rains never challenged it. Nothing ever crashed into it. No fires ever burned it. This was one of the luckiest barns in the world. And even though its wood was rotting, it still stood proud and tall, until the day the horses thought it should be moved over to the highway. You really need to be an engineer to successfully move any type of structure. And as smart as the horses are, they just aren't trained engineers. They were unable to take into account all the factors and forces that the barn would be subject to. And because of this, things went haywire. Okay, so here are the picture of the horses trying to move this huge barn. The horses split into teams, one in back, one in front. They started pushing and pulling and whinnying and grunting. Support beams were snapping. The barn started to slide. Things broke through the walls that were sitting inside. A tractor, the stables, out came an old truck. Lots of things were revealed when that barn came unstuck. The horses kept pushing right through the old fence when all of a sudden things got very tense. The barn started moving all on its own. There was no one in charge. The horses were thrown. Look at all that stuff that was in the barn. Look, the horses are watching this barn going down the hill by itself. Oh boy, look what happened. Down a hill raced fast towards a lake. It was picking up speed at an enormous mistake. It cartwheeled and tumbled, the side split in two. Moving a barn is something horses can't do. The door was thrown high, and as a matter of fact, all the sides were destroyed, but the roof was intact. That roof was so huge, so heavy and large, when it smashed into the lake, it floated like a barge. But it didn't float long because it hit the far side, sort of wobbled a bit, then the momentum just died. It didn't sink very much, the lake wasn't too deep, and the sound of the crash brought over the sheep. The pigs came to look, and the cows came down too, and the chickens came over to see the hullabaloo. They all stared at the roof as it sat in the lake. The horses were silent. They had made a mistake. What had they done? They had acted so dumb, and all because they wanted people to come. Once bitter and angry and hungry for fame, they hung their heads low and felt a great shame. They returned to their fields, sad and defeated. Their dream of the crowds would not be completed. But down by the lake, the mood was quite high. The roof made a bridge the others could try. They'd never been able to cross the small lake. What the horses had done was a happy mistake. It opened a whole new world to explore. They'd seen all the horses, but never met them before. So the cows and the chickens, the pig and the sheep went into the horse field up the hill tall and steep. They found all the horses glum and depressed and thought it was a problem that must be addressed. Look at all the pigs and chickens and cows and horses are all in one place now. It was time for a party, the best party ever. For the first time in history, they were all together. The sheep were the band, the pigs looked tremendous, the cows passed out apples, the chicken show was stupendous. The horses had wanted new crowds to come, and by creating a bridge, what they wanted was done. They no longer be lonely. The whole farm was connected. Things worked out much better than the horses had expected. And you could see the joy on every animal's face. They knew that some magic had taken place. They were working together for an evening of fun. Their 5 dreams combined into a stunning new one. By trying their hardest, they helped one another. They discovered themselves and discovered each other. At the end of the night, all the animals knew they'd be there for each other no matter what they went through. So they all took a walk to the now broken sign and paid their respects. They built a small shrine. So here's a Wannabe sign. Wannabe farms had become something new, a powerful place where dreams always come true. They'd no longer be bored, they'd no longer be blue. To follow their dreams was all they would do. That night all the animals, every last one, felt very happy. Their lives were now fun. Or it's the epilogue of the book. Did I miss the whole point? Perhaps there is no way to know what animals think, if they have dreams, if they enjoy what they dream. Some people say they can't think a bit. They simply have instincts, and that's simply it. So, let's take a step back, give them credit for thought. Just look at their actions and the destruction they brought. The cows smashed a crate on the top of the hill, causing a mess and a huge apple spill. The chickens got out running here, running there, exploding their coop, never seeming to care. The sheep ruined the shed used for shearing. Then they made lots of noise back in the clearing. The pigs destroyed that feast. Is there any doubt in your mind? A pig's an unthinking beast? The horses by far caused the most harm by completely destroying the rest of the farm. It certainly seems this is what they would do if they were left to run wild for a week or two. Speaking of which, who is in charge of the farm? Can you believe that nobody tried to stop anything of this from happening? Hello, farmer. Your farm is becoming a huge mess. Hello. Anyway, animals are just wild, some people would say. They're destructive and rude, and they engage in foul play. They cannot be trusted. They get all sorts of trouble, and if they're left by themselves, that trouble will double. Well, you can look at the damage and say that is tragic. Or you can look at what happened and see there was magic. Deep in my heart, I know that it's true. Thinking and dreaming are things animals do. But seriously, who's in charge of that farm? So, here's a picture. We started out with the farm has these nice buildings, and where the sheep are and the horse stay. But then, after they did all their destructive things, look at that. Wow, there's nothing left for the chickens and the sheep. This is hard to see. The sheep knocked down their shed, and look at the whole barn is in the water. What a mess at Wannabe Farm. But that was a fun book to read. Because Wannabe Farms is where animals wonder and animals dream, where animals ponder and animals sleep. So that was a fun book about dreams and trying to make them come true. So I hope you enjoyed it, and I love all of you, and I will see you soon. Bye-bye.